6 years ago. Moving to a new neighborhood marked an unexpected turn in my life. My wife Becky, daughter Holly, and I settled into a comfortable home in a friendly neighborhood. We quickly became friends with our neighbors, Matt and Pam. Matt, a strong real estate agent, had a gift for storytelling, whereas Pam, a tall and slender blonde, was a devoted mother to their son, Chet. Becky and Pam became fast friends, frequently getting together, while Matt and I bonded over golf, making it a monthly ritual. Our families grew closer through numerous dinners, celebrations, and casual get-togethers. Despite our age difference, Matt and I shared a passion for golf and frequently played friendly competitions. Becky and Pam's camaraderie strengthened our bond, giving us the impression that we were part of an extended family. I had no idea that these everyday moments would soon be eclipsed by events that would test my marriage and shake our intertwined lives. On a memorable golf day, I had a decent round, finishing 18 holes with 7 strokes over par. Matt and I had been golfing together about twice a month for years. When Becky and I moved in together, he became my friend. Matt, a big man and a great conversationalist, excelled in real estate. Pam stayed at home to care for their son Chet, who has recently turned 18 and is preparing for university. Pam and Becky hit it off right away, and they now meet several times per week. Becky, a fit and attractive natural blonde with shoulder-length hair, was the most beautiful woman to me until she said, "We need to talk." I prepared for bad news. At first, I suspected it was a problem with her car or a family issue. Our daughter Holly recently turned 18 and began dating a boy named Dean. My mind raced through various possibilities, including pregnancy, but I was almost certain of it. I sat down with Becky. "Henry, my dear, you know how much I adore you, right?" Becky spoke softly and tenderly. "Of course." "Beck." I had absolutely no doubts about it. I replied, trying to remain cheerful despite my growing suspicions that she was pregnant. "And I do. Henry, I love you deeply and will always do. I'm looking forward to spending the rest of our lives together." Becky continued in a sincere and loving tone. "Me too, honey, but what is the problem?" I inquired, sensing something was amiss. "Henry, we've been together for 20 years, 18 of them married. Every day I grow to love you more. I have dedicated my life to you and Holly." "Would you agree?" she asked. Her tone was now serious and intent. I realized it wasn't about Holly, but something Becky wanted that she assumed I'd object to. She never mentioned wanting another child, so I quickly dismissed that theory. "I agree. Honey, you always put Holly and me first. Yes, and that is why I'm confident you will support me now," she said with a hopeful tone. "Well, I'm listening," I replied. Henry was piqued by my curiosity because as we get older, our bodies, energy levels, and sex change. "You've always been a wonderful lover, but as you get older, it becomes more difficult to keep up." "It's natural, and I get it," Becky said, her voice steady but with a hint of something more. I didn't like how things had suddenly turned out. The last thing a man wants is for his wife to question his masculinity. I had a bad feeling. She kept talking, and I just nodded, waiting for the real issue to emerge. "For me, it's different. I need to be close almost every day," she said with a slightly pleading tone. "Do you think I feel the same way, Becky? I love you and want to take care of you, but you can't completely avoid biology," I said, attempting to keep my voice calm. "I know and understand, and I do not blame you." "It's just part of aging," she said, her voice softening. "Okay, Becky, you have pointed out my sexual flaws. Will you get to the point?" I inquired, feeling my patience wear thin as she discussed my inability to fully satisfy her. I suspected she was going to ask for permission to have an affair. I was almost correct. "Henry, please understand, I am not trying to belittle you. This is difficult for me to say, but I hope we can discuss it calmly." Becky spoke, her voice trembling slightly. I remained silent, waiting. "Henry, I have a lover. It's been nearly a year," she finally admitted, her voice breaking. I was stunned and unable to respond. She kept talking to break the silence. "We meet a few times per week. I do not love him. I only love you. I tried to keep things normal at home. You had me whenever you wanted, and that will not change. You are my husband. And your needs come first," she insisted, her voice desperate for comprehension. "So do you intend to continue this?" I inquired, my voice shaking with suppressed rage. Yes, Henry, my needs have increased and I require this, but it won't change my feelings about you or our lovemaking, she said firmly. Who is he? I demanded. My voice rises. I am not saying it isn't one of your friends or colleagues, just somebody I met. She responded, her voice flat. And you expect me to accept it because I love you? I spoke with disbelief, coloring my words. Yes, I understand that you love me and want me to be happy. I worked hard to ensure you didn't notice any changes. The alternative would be divorce, alimony, and child support. I love you and do not want that, she said, her tone now calm and measured. I tried to remain calm, but inside I was furious. How dare she threaten to divorce me? Holly might be unhappy living with a cheating mother. You have it all figured out, right? You deceived me and expect me to accept it, I said, my voice full of sarcasm. Please don't think that way, honey, she pleaded. Don't call me that, I snapped. Being angry and using obscene language will not help, she warned, her voice admonishing. I responded, it may not, but it makes me feel better. I know this is difficult to hear, but it will not affect us. You didn't notice before and won't in the future. It's simply something I do for myself. It's like volunteering in my spare time, she explained, her voice detached. Okay, assume I believe you, which I do not. But why now? I inquired, my tone tinged with suspicion. What do you mean? She inquired, confused. You lied and deceived me for a year. Why tell me now? I demanded, needing to understand her motivation. I intended to express how much I love you and how grateful I am for allowing this. But he is taking me to Hawaii for a week, Becky said, her voice calm but determined. Are you kidding me? You leave for a week with your lover and I work to support you, and I am supposed to welcome you back. What did I do to deserve such disrespect? I replied. My rage was barely contained. You did nothing, Henry. This is not disrespectful to you. I need you to understand that I'm doing this for myself, and it doesn't affect how I feel about you, she responded, pleading for understanding. I don't understand it. What about Holly? What are you going to tell her about your solo vacation? We have always traveled as a family, I questioned, trying to understand the situation. I've already told Holly that some friends and I are going on a trip and it will not interfere with our family vacation this summer. She didn't mind and may even be glad I'm leaving, Becky explained, almost cheerfully. She giggled, which seemed like a joke. Oh, this is such a light-hearted subject, and you think I will let her believe this lie? I asked incredulously. Henry, what proof do you have otherwise? I showed her the brochures and promised to tell her all about it when I returned. She'd rather believe me than you, she stated confidently. So do whatever you want. It doesn't matter if I don't like it. Too bad. How do you plan to stay married to me after this? I demanded, feeling the weight of her betrayal. We love each other, Henry. Becky insisted that everything would be back to normal once I returned, her voice soothing but unconvincing. I am tired of this nonsense, I said, my patience drained. She hadn't considered the long-term consequences. Even if she leaves, we will not remain married. Things will not be the same. I gave it one last try. Becky, do not go. We can work on our marriage and make it better. Just please don't leave. Henry, I am going, but everything will remain as before. You will see. I love you too much to let this affect anything, she replied, her resolve unwavering. I tried. This has already changed everything, but you fulfilled your duty by informing me. Have a great time. Unlike you, I refuse to lie. I'll be in the carpentry shop if you're interested, I replied, my voice heavy with resignation. Henry, be careful. Operating power tools while upset is dangerous, she warned. I walked into the basement, ignoring her. I couldn't believe she expected me to agree to this. Regardless of her feelings, I planned to tell Holly what her mother was up to. A visit to Hawaii, of all places. We had planned to go as a family. Now she has decided to go with that guy. I considered my options. Divorce was likely in our no-fault state. I would be responsible for child support and possibly alimony. I could afford it, but I didn't like the prospect of her living with her boyfriend while I worked and lived alone. I didn't see any other option than to stay until Holly left for college and then leave. But I would not touch Becky again. I'd been in the workshop for several hours when I heard Holly arrive home. Typically, she spent Saturdays with friends or Dean. I chose to tell Holly the truth. I overheard her talking to Becky. Hello, Mom. Have you told your father about your trip to Hawaii with Mr. Harrington yet? Holly inquired, her voice casual yet tinged with curiosity. Damn, she knew everything. Becky had not told her a story about friends. Holly knew the truth and didn't care. Who is Mr. Harrington? Did Holly know him? I thought to myself, feeling a rush of rage and confusion. Yes. I told him he wasn't happy and was sulking in the carpentry shop, but he would come around. Becky responded dismissively, saying, "He has no choice." I can't believe he's this selfish, Mom. If he truly loved you, he would be delighted for you to have your needs met. He'll have to accept that you need a younger man. If he gets his way, he has no reason to complain, Holly said, her voice filled with adolescent outrage. Who was this kid? Becky had been filling Holly's head with nonsense for years. She really was Becky's mini-me. I realized with a sinking heart. I told him this, but he took it personally. His fragile male ego cannot accept this. He cannot meet all of my needs. I explained that people change with age, but he still sees me as his woman, Becky continued, her voice full of condescension. No respect. I'm glad I introduced you to Mr. Harrington. He's excited about the trip and has some special plans for you. Holly spoke almost gleefully. My daughter knew about the affair and helped her mother. She appeared to revel in my humiliation. How does my 18-year-old daughter know anyone older than her whom Becky could date and afford to travel to Hawaii? At the very least, I have a name to investigate. I reflected, feeling a combination of betrayal and resolve. Honey, please don't tell him about our sex life. It's uncomfortable and inappropriate, Becky warned, her voice suddenly stern. You told me that things were not going well with Dad, and that it was time to find a lover, just like Grandma did. You complained about not meeting anyone, so I found someone for you. That allows me some freedom, Holly responded with defiance and pride. True, but you still shouldn't discuss it with Rick. You are underage, and he is your teacher, Becky said, her voice full of concern. I couldn't believe what I heard. My wife and daughter were conspiring, and Holly was talking about things she shouldn't have understood. I needed to confront the situation head-on, but first, I needed to collect all of the facts. Jackpot. My plans have taken a drastic turn. I would not stay in the same house as these two traitors. Divorce was not an option either. I would be responsible for Holly's expenses until she graduated in June. I'd relocate, live elsewhere, and maintain a household account for bills and food. I'd stay in touch via email and phone while deciding which costs to cover. Holly's days of having everything she desired. It was as if the car she had been asking for was no longer available. I was able to arrange everything in 2 weeks while Becky's credit cards were still active. I'd have an easy time finding a place to live. I wouldn't pretend everything was fine, but I wouldn't make a big deal either. Hollywood eventually discovered that I knew about her role in her mother's betrayal, and I was intrigued by her reaction. I went upstairs to shower and decided to go out to dinner. I did not want to sit at the table with traitors. I entered the kitchen. Both looked at me. Holly ran up as usual. Hello, Daddy. Holly spoke cheerfully. She tried to hug me, but I simply stood there. She backed away, puzzled. What is the matter, Dad? She inquired, her tone confused. I looked at them and went to my bedroom. I'd move my belongings to a spare room until I could leave. For now, I closed the doors and entered the shower. Becky couldn't leave me alone. She found her way inside. What the hell was that? Be angry at me if you want, but don't take it out on your daughter, Becky said with a sharp tone. She didn't do anything to you. I stared at her before getting back into the shower. So it's the silent treatment. How mature. Let me know when you're done sulking. Dinner is ready, she announced, slamming the door behind her. I shrugged and dressed. Coming out, I noticed the meeting. They fell silent as I entered. Holly smiled, hoping I would join them and perhaps apologize. I turned and walked away. I got into my BMW and left. I ate alone at a local steakhouse and passed the time by reading news articles. No calls from anyone. I watched a late movie, arrived home around 1 a.m. and discovered everyone sleeping. I quickly fell asleep in the guest room. Of course, my good times were brief. Despite everything, I still thought Becky was attractive. Why did you sleep here last night? She asked. To avoid you? Becky, I did not want to sleep with you, I responded bluntly. It appears that some of you are interested, she said, reaching out. I turned away, getting out of bed, and saw disappointment on her face. Henry, I am still the woman you have loved all these years. Let me take care of you, she said softly. Becky, you are not the same woman, and that was not the heart you shared. So long as you have another partner. I'm out. It's your decision. Your husband or boyfriend. I spoke, my voice firm. You are not being reasonable. I know you love me and will eventually understand my point. I want you to be happy, so you'll give me this, she said, exiting the room. Sunday was like Saturday. I remained in the workshop and returned for dinner. I worked late every evening for the next 2 weeks, and the time passed quickly. Every night I asked Becky not to go on the trip. Becky, please don't call him and end things. Let's work on ourselves. I begged Henry. I understand how difficult this is, but I need to leave. She insisted that it would only be 1 week before we could resume our relationship. So you're going to keep seeing him? It's not just you and I inquired, feeling despair. Yes, Henry, I apologize, but this is what I need. If you love me, you will understand, she stated, her tone unwavering. This continued until the night before she left. Holly approached me a few days later after I overheard her and Becky talking. Dad, please stop avoiding me. We need to talk about this. Please. Holly said, I love you, in an earnest tone. Holly, I could tell you why I'm angry, but let someone else explain, I responded with a heavy voice. Anyone else? What do you mean? She asked, puzzled. Ask your teacher, Mr. Harrington. You set him up with your mother to trick me. Maybe he can respond to you, I replied, watching her reaction. Holly was surprised that I knew her role as Becky's lover, but she didn't apologize, like her mother. So I introduced them. How? She asked calmly. I overheard you talking with your mother, I responded. It's just Zach's father. I don't love him, she said dismissively. Why is everyone saying that? As if it justified it. Marriage encompasses more than just sex and love, I explained, trying to make her understand that she is leaving and there is nothing you can do. Do your best, and you will continue to get what you deserve, Holly said, exiting the room. She left the room, dismissing me and my emotions. We avoided each other until her mother departed. Finally, the day arrived. Becky was packed and waiting in the living room for her taxi. Holly was with her, chatting enthusiastically. I waited in the workshop until I heard the car arrive. My taxi is here, honey, and I'd like to check out. Bye. This means nothing. You will see, Becky called out, her voice artificially cheerful. She waited for the response. Are you not going to kiss me goodbye? She inquired with a hint of expectation in her voice. Nope, I responded flatly. As you wish. She spoke, her voice tinged with resignation. Eventually, I heard the door close and Becky's heels hit the kitchen floor. The front door closed, followed by the sound of her suitcases and the car engine starting. It marked the end of my marriage. I took the week off during Becky's absence and quietly moved my belongings out while Holly was at school. I returned my belongings from the guest room to the bedroom, hoping that Holly would believe I was staying and thus give them a false sense of security. I avoided discussing my move or divorce because I wanted Becky to believe I'd be there when she returned. She was due back Saturday evening, and I planned to leave by then. Holly was aware that I was aware of her involvement in the affair, and she made no effort to conceal it. One evening, as she was preparing dinner, my phone rang with Becky's call, which I dismissed. Holly's phone rang, and I overheard the conversation. Hello, Mom. How was your trip? That sounds great. No. He's here because he knows who you are and how I introduced you. There is no point in hiding. He moved his belongings back to your bedroom as soon as you left. He was bluffing, just as you suspected. I think he's accepted it. Okay, I will tell him I love you. She then conveyed Becky's message. Mom asked me to tell you that she loves you and that everything will be as it was when she returns. I nodded and accepted her words. The rest of the week unfolded similarly. I gradually moved my belongings to my new apartment, bringing only personal items. On Friday evening, I realized that my relationship with Holly was irreparably damaged. Following dinner, Holly approached me. Will you ever talk to me about something other than grumbling and monosyllabic responses? Again? You've forgiven Mom, but what about me? Holly inquired, her voice full of frustration and hurt. I looked at her quizzically. Why do you think I forgave your mother? I inquired, genuinely perplexed. You returned to the bedroom. That means you're going to sleep with her and forgive her, she said, her tone implying that this was a foregone conclusion. Holly, I have not and will never forgive your mother. She ruined everything we had. I spoke, my voice steady but filled with underlying pain. I don't understand why you're acting like this, Holly replied, her voice rising in frustration. She wants it, and that is the difference. Holly, you're barely 18. You don't completely understand, I responded calmly. She stood up, angry. Just because I am 18 does not mean I don't understand what my mother is going through. She described everything to me. She spoke defiantly. I, too, became angry and raised my voice. Yes. She explained it from a selfish perspective. She decided she was the only person who mattered. I yelled, unable to contain my frustration. This is nonsense, Father. She was always there for you and me, and she finally did something for herself. You couldn't take it, Holly replied, her words cutting deep. Her words cut deeply. Oh, Dad, I am so sorry, she continued, suddenly realizing the significance of her words. The rage and hatred I felt for my daughter at the time were overwhelming. Holly, don't ever talk to me again. I spoke in a cold, final tone. I walked out and went to my bedroom for the last time, ignoring Holly. Please. I spent the night gathering my remaining belongings. My heart is heavy with shattered trust and broken relationships. I took a taxi from the airport rather than asking Rick for a ride. Since Holly had told me Henry was back in the bedroom, I didn't want to upset him by seeing Rick. Everything was going well, and I didn't want to rock the boat. When I entered the house, the taxi driver brought my belongings inside. It was almost dinner time, and I expected Henry or Holly to have something prepared, but there was nothing. Maybe Henry had planned a dinner to celebrate my return. When I heard footsteps on the stairs, Holly rushed to hug me, crying, "Hello, baby. I missed you too, but there's no reason to cry." I spoke gently, attempting to calm her. She sobbed and trembled. "It is clear that you are missing more than just me." I drew her face away to look at her. "What is wrong, baby? Where is Dad?" My voice was filled with concern as I asked. She struggled with her emotions for a few minutes before speaking. "Dad moved out. I drove him away." "What exactly are you talking about? You told me he returned to the bedroom." I mentioned that confusion and worry were battling within me. "Yes, but we had a fight last night, and I said something terrible. This morning, he and his belongings were gone." "There's a note on the table," she said, her voice breaking. I saw the note, which I hadn't noticed before, and felt a growing sense of unease. I picked it up. It was printed from the computer, with the exception of Henry's signature. "Becky, I hope your time in Hawaii with Rick Harrington was worthwhile, because it cost you your marriage and may cost Rick his job. The school board will not accept your relationship. I've moved out with only my personal belongings. I will eventually receive my tools and woodworking supplies. I'm not sure why your sexual needs became more important than our marriage. I was willing to forgive your year-long affair if you canceled the trip and vowed never to see him again. However, our marriage ended when the taxi left. I also do not understand why you included our daughter in your affair. Because of the disrespect she shows me as a result of your influence, you have most likely jeopardized her ability to have a normal relationship. I only left you and Holly physically. I did not shirk my responsibilities. Your bills will continue to be paid automatically, and funds will be deposited into your household account to cover necessary expenses. Don't expect to pay extra for entertainment. Your pleasures no longer concern me. I left my email and phone number for emergencies. If you require anything, please email me and I will determine whether I will fund the request. Don't flood my inbox with requests to come home or excuses. I will delete them without reading. Michael knows where I live, but he refuses to tell me. If you try to enter my office, security will deny you access. I will tell you what I told Holly after her hateful speech. I don't want to speak to you or her ever again. Your selfish actions have harmed both relationships. I will no longer be involved in your lives. I am confident Holly will find someone to walk her down the aisle. I've loved you both for a long time, but your attitude has become destructive. I will not let you do this to me. Henry. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I finished reading Henry's letter. This was not how it was supposed to be. He was supposed to love me forever and realize that this was not about him or us. Involving Holly was a mistake, but it all began with girl talk. She told me about herself, and Dean and I talked about Henry and myself to foster trust. I mentioned her grandmother's affair, and Holly introduced me to Rick during her choir performance. He was attractive and sexy, and I enjoyed spending time with Henry that evening. After that, Holly kept bringing him up, saying he wasn't looking for anything serious, just some fun. I took the bait and began contacting him one evening while Henry was out of town. I invited Rick over to dinner. We ended up at his place, where I spent the night. Holly found out what had happened the following morning. We discussed it like old friends. It was exciting, and I realized I could continue seeing Rick without Henry finding out. For months, Rick and I met a few times per week, discreetly. I made sure Rick didn't become too attached. Our affair continued. Rick invited me to Hawaii around the anniversary of our first night together. Henry and I had planned to go, but the prospect of a week in paradise was too appealing. As a housewife, I couldn't justify such an extended absence. But I convinced myself that Henry wouldn't mind and would let me leave. I reasoned that if I explained there was no love between Rick and me, just sex, Henry would understand. That's why I told him 2 weeks in advance, hoping he would accept it. Obviously, that did not happen. I was confident that when I returned and everything was back to normal, Henry would notice that it had not affected him, but he left, and I underestimated his love for me. The love of my life has left me, but I'm resourceful, and I'm confident I can find him and persuade him to see things my way. Before I resume, I may need to calm things down with Rick and persuade Henry that it is over. Henry's brother Michael knows his new address, but I doubt he'll help. Perhaps Fiona, Michael's wife, would. Once I find Henry, I should be able to persuade him to return. He didn't mention divorce, so he obviously doesn't want to lose me. He could be trying to make a point with his. I doubt he meant his message. I never want to talk to you again. He will realize that he cannot live without me. I'll start calling Fiona on Monday when Michael is at work. Until then, Holly and I will make do. It was a beautiful day, so I decided to relax by the pool. The apartment complex where I moved had a pool, a fitness center, and a large common area for parties. I had lived here for a few months. The initial week was spent unpacking and working. For the next few weeks I was depressed and watched television. Finally, I decided to live again and went to the pool to relax and enjoy the sun. The water was probably too cool for me, but lying in the sun while reading was ideal. I went on several dates, but no one piqued my interest. I was still mourning the loss of my family and missing Becky, whom I had married. I'd been lying in a sun lounger for about an hour when a shadow fell on me. I opened my eyes and noticed an attractive woman. "Hello, I have not seen you here before. Did you just move in?" she asked. Her voice was friendly and curious. "Approximately 2 months ago. My name is Henry," I replied with a smile. "Michelle, nice to meet you. Can I join you?" she asked, gesturing toward the lounger next to mine. "Of course. Have a seat," I replied, sitting up slightly to make room. She smiled and positioned a lounger next to mine. She had long brown hair and a stunning figure, but no wedding ring. She turned to me and inquired, "So, Henry, are you recently divorced or simply trying to appear single?" "Why are you asking?" I asked, curious about her observation. "Your finger has a tan line where a wedding ring once was." She spoke with sharp eyes, very perceptive. "Did you notice I also checked your finger?" I commented, impressed with her attention to detail. "Well, I am not divorced. I moved out while my wife was in Hawaii with her lover. I admitted to feeling a variety of emotions." "Oh my God, what an interesting story." She spoke, leaning in slightly. "It's not particularly interesting to live it, but I can see how it might appear from the outside," I replied, shrugging. "Is there any chance of reconciliation?" she inquired, her tone compassionate. "No, I do care about her. But what she did ended any hope of that," I replied firmly. "Tell me about it when you invite me to dinner tonight." She indicated a playful smile on her lips. "Is there a specific place you want to go?" I inquired, intrigued by her directness. "Somewhere nice. And will you ask me to dance? My daughter is staying with my sister, so we can stay out late," she explained, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "That sounds good," I agreed, feeling a rush of excitement. Michelle looked at me and made eye contact. "Let's be clear, Henry. I like you, and you appear to like me. However, I do not sleep with married men. So, if you want a chance, you'll need to figure out your marital situation." She spoke in a firm but kind voice. "I believe I just got the motivation I needed. Let's see how dinner goes first," I replied, feeling a renewed sense of determination. We spent an additional hour relaxing by the pool, mostly in silence, saving conversation for dinner. As I prepared for my date with Michelle, I considered this unexpected turn. I enjoyed being married but was hesitant to start a new relationship. My feelings toward Holly were complicated. She had said hurtful things influenced by her mother's beliefs. I knew I'd try to work things out with her eventually, but Becky was done. I would not let her prevent me from living my life, even if it meant paying her off. I picked up Michelle at 6 p.m. We also visited a high-end Brazilian steakhouse in downtown. I'd been there before, but Michelle had not. She wore an emerald green dress that exposed some skin on top. I told her that she looked stunning. "Thank you, sir." "You look good," Michelle said with a smile. I took her hand and led her to my BMW, opening the door for her as my mother had instructed me. We drove through downtown, discussing the places we passed. We held hands, and it felt good. We were seated at a romantic table in a private alcove thanks to a carefully placed $50 bill. We settled in and were greeted by Kelsey, our server. We ordered drinks and started talking. "Do I need to ask for another waitress?" Michelle asked. "Why?" I responded in confusion. "If she continues to bother you, I'll claw her eyes out, and I don't want to do that," she said, with a mischievous glint in her eyes. I noticed the mischief in her eyes and smiled, but I made a mental note to tone it down just in case. She grabbed my hand to calm me down. "Henry, I like you and want to know you better." Michelle said softly, "I did not mean to offend the waitress." "I'm flattered you made your claim on me," I said, feeling a warm glow. "So, what are you doing for a living?" she asked. Genuinely interested. "I am a mechanical engineer and Alpha Logistics Senior Vice President." "And you?" I inquired. "I am a loan officer at First National. Though I could live on my ex-husband's alimony and child support, he cheated on me with his assistant and got her pregnant." She spoke calmly, but with an undercurrent of pain. "I cannot imagine anyone cheating on someone as beautiful as you," I replied, shaking my head in disbelief. "Thank you. Do you have children?" she asked. "Holly is an 18-year-old daughter, but we don't talk much because she agrees with her mother on cheating." I explained with a hint of sadness in my voice. "I'd like to hear more about your wife, but only if you're comfortable." Michelle spoke gently. "I don't mind, even though I come off very well in my side of the story," I said, hoping to lighten the mood. "Do not worry, I'll decide for myself," she reassured me. I told her the story, starting with the "we need to talk" moment and ending with Holly's angry outburst and my early morning departure. "Henry, it sounds like Holly is as affected by her mother's influence as you are," Michelle said sympathetically. "It hurts that she thinks so little of me, even if it is Becky's fault, I admit. Keep communication channels open. She'll come around someday," she said. "I hope so." "I'll make an effort," I said with determination. "Are you prepared to share your story, Michelle?" I asked. "My ex is the VP of a gym chain. He hired a new assistant and they began sleeping together during business trips. His bosses even warned him when she became pregnant. I left him and received generous alimony and child support. I don't have to work, but it gives me a reason to get up every day," she explained. "That's quite juicy. Maybe not as much as an affair in Hawaii, but still enjoyable. I noticed that you are dealing well with the breakup. Yes, but loneliness can overwhelm me. It was the correct decision, but I miss what we had," she admitted. "Call me if you ever feel bad. I will come over. We can discuss or watch a movie. I've been there and will help you," I offered sincerely. "Thank you, Henry." "I might take you up on that," she said, smiling. She smiled and took my hand. I felt compelled to do something, so I stood up and kissed her on the cheek. I smiled and said, "I look forward to more kisses, including longer ones, when you give me a ride home." I kissed her again and went back to my seat. Our dinner and conversation were both excellent. We went to a dance club for the elderly. Michelle, 35, was the most attractive woman there, and men kept asking her to dance, but she turned them all down. We danced together several times, moving smoothly and staying close. At 2 a.m. we paused at her apartment door. "I had a great time, Henry," Michelle said, her eyes sparkling. "I agree. Michelle, can I see you tomorrow, or is it too early?" I asked, hoping for a positive answer. "Oh, it isn't too soon." She smiled as she replied, "If I could see you earlier, I would." "Great. I need to pick up Joni at 11, so it has to be before then. I do not introduce her to anyone until we have been together for at least a month. What about breakfast at my place? I mentioned that I make an excellent omelet. I'll be there at 8 p.m., she agreed. The knock came at 8:30, and I appreciated the promptness. Michelle was dressed in black yoga pants and a white long-sleeve top, looking as if she had just slept for 12 hours. "I brought sliced fruit for your omelet," she said, holding the bowl in one hand and pulling me closer to her for a kiss. She entered the kitchen with confidence and looked over the ingredients. "I'd like bacon, spinach, and cheese with mine." She requested that I arrange the fruit on plates while I prepared the omelet. She started opening drawers and cabinets, which puzzled me. Our kitchens are set up almost identically. "I find it interesting," she said with a chuckle. I laughed as I finished serving the omelet. I felt at ease with Michelle, as if we had known each other for ages. We sat on the sofa and talked after we finished eating. It was almost time for her to pick up Joni from her sister's house. I walked her to the car and gave her a kiss goodbye. "Call me later," she said as she drove away. On Monday morning, I scheduled an appointment with a divorce attorney. I asked a friend at Alpha who had handled his divorce. He recommended a tough lawyer that his ex had used. I found her phone number online and scheduled an appointment for Wednesday. Becky did not want a divorce, so I assumed she would not initiate one. I was eager to explore my relationship with Michelle and wondered if simply filing for divorce would suffice. Michelle and I talked on the phone for the next 2 evenings. I told her about my lawyer appointment, and she assured me it would be worthwhile. On Wednesday, my brother Michael called me. "What's up, bro?" I greeted him. "I'm just updating you. Becky keeps asking for your address. She has been trying to persuade Fiona to help her," Michael informed me. "Fiona refuses to tell her anything, but Becky is getting desperate." He added, "Thank you for being my buffer, Mike." "Let me know if there's anything I can do for you," I replied gratefully. "It's not necessary, but we'll figure something out," he responded. "Has she tried anything in your office?" I inquired, concerned. "She tried a few times, but got nowhere. She still calls every day, and our secretary treats it as a game," Michael said with a laugh. The legal meeting went well. Denise Duncan, who specializes in assisting women in divorces, accepted my case after reviewing the evidence I had obtained from a private investigator. She believed we could use this evidence to our advantage, despite her suggestion that we use the investigator's report. I was prepared to split everything fairly and accept alimony and child support. That evening, as I was deciding what to eat, I heard a knock on the door. Michelle entered, carrying a picnic basket and plates. I took them from her, set them on the table, and kissed her. "Wow, baby, that was a pleasant greeting." "I missed you too." "Where is Joni?" Michelle asked, smiling at me. "She is out for pizza with a friend. I assumed you hadn't eaten yet and wanted to hear how the lawyer visit went," she said. "We both want this to start." Her eyes widened with anticipation. "Yes, baby, we do. We need to communicate clearly, and the marriage certificate is in the way." "Let us eat," I responded, relieved by her support. She brought out containers of brisket and potato salad, and we began eating. While we ate, I told them about my visit to the lawyer. "You are being kinder than I was. Jay and I were married for only 9 years. Should I be tougher?" Michelle inquired, looking thoughtful. "That is up to you, my dear, but I appreciate that you are attentive and fair. I'm confident that if we disagree, you will remain reasonable." "Jay couldn't do it," I responded, appreciating her understanding. She stayed with me for about 2 hours before receiving a call saying they had returned from the pizzeria. I walked her halfway to her apartment and watched her enter. She was cautious and wouldn't let me walk her all the way home. I felt as if I had floated back to my apartment. I was becoming increasingly upset. I couldn't believe Fiona was refusing to help me. Women were supposed to support one another. She refused to locate Henri's new address. I tried to follow him home from work, but he never went straight, or I lost him in traffic, before I met Rick, twice per week. However, after Henri left, it became 3 to 4 times per week. I needed it, and with Henri gone, it was his fault. I turned to Rick more frequently. However, Rick has only met with me once in the last 2 weeks. He is under pressure from the school board's investigation into our affair and is trying to avoid being fired. The union is fighting for him, but the situation does not look good. We didn't consider the consequences. I was beginning to believe that the Hawaii trip, as amazing as it was a huge mistake. Money was also tight. Henry gives me just enough for Holly and me. We have to eat at home every night and can only watch movies on premium channels because we cannot afford to go to the theater. Even then, we ordered too many movies, and Henry threatened to cut off our cable if we didn't reduce the number. He's being totally unreasonable. Holly is here, and at least she has Dean to take her out occasionally. But I can't give her money to spend, so Dean has to pay each time. Dean is now pressuring Holly to have sex to contribute to the relationship, and she is upset with me. All of this is because Henry's ego cannot handle another younger man taking care of my needs. I still love him, but if he comes back, he must meet all of my needs, or accept that I will have someone by my side. This is not discussed on a bright Friday morning at 9:45 a.m. My telephone rang. Becky must have received her divorce papers around 9:30. I did not answer because I was at work, but I did listen to the voicemail immediately. It's completely out of control, Henry. I destroyed the papers. I will not sign them. We are not getting divorced. You need to call me right now so that we can proceed together. Becky spoke, her voice aggressive and insistent. I was not surprised by her response. She still believed that I should accept her actions, and that it was my fault, not hers. I hadn't mentioned the private investigator's report yet, but it could be the tipping point in this case. The investigator discovered evidence quickly in Hawaii, where they were less cautious. Michelle and I planned to go out tonight. We only met a week ago, so I was unfamiliar with Joni. Tonight, we were meeting Michelle's sister, Lori, and her husband, Jeff, while the kids were with friends. I felt nervous but optimistic. When I picked Michelle up, she is dressed stunningly in a knee-length purple dress and heels. We met Jeff and Lori at the restaurant and exchanged introductions. We sat at a square table with Michelle to my right and Lori on my left. Lori asked. Michelle stated, "You're getting divorced. How's it going?" Michelle expected me to handle this alone. My wife received the papers today, but she intends to fight it. She can't make me stay married, but she will try, I replied, trying to maintain a steady tone. But you have proof of her betrayal. Lori emphasized the point. Yes, which we can use as leverage. Her mother is also an unrepentant cheater, so there's no help there. However, her volunteer group may be concerned. Eventually, it will be possible to proceed without her signature, if I wait long enough. I explained, outlining my plan. Do you expect Michelle to wait for this? Lori asked, her gaze narrowing. I'm not expecting Michelle to do anything she doesn't want to. If she decides not to wait, I will respect that decision, but I hope she does, I said, looking at Michelle with sincerity. I didn't intend to worry about the divorce, but I'm doing it to be with her. I added that I believe she is worth the wait. I spoke with resolve. Lori stared at me, processing my words, while Jeff grinned, clearly impressed. For the time being, I approve of you, but you must perform well on the dance floor, Lori stated in her tone. Lightning! I'm looking forward to it, I said, feeling relieved and excited. The evening was wonderful. Michelle and I stayed close the entire night, except when we switched dance partners. Lori was taller and slimmer, with straight blonde hair, whereas Michelle was bustier and rounder. Despite their differences, they were clearly sisters. While dancing with Lori, she mentioned that Michelle told her about your wife. I'm truly sorry. Thanks. It took a toll on my self-esteem, but Michelle was extremely helpful. I responded, appreciating her sympathy. She really likes you. Lori said, Please don't hurt her, her tone serious. I will not. She means a lot to me. I really like her. I reassured her, aware of the weight of her words. Michelle had to pick up the kids once she returned to the apartment complex. Lori and Jeff's children, Alexis and Marcus, had a nanny. I kissed Michelle goodbye as she got into her car and walked back to my apartment. I had just gotten into bed when there was a knock at the door. When I saw Michelle through the crowd, I opened it and she kissed me. Call me tomorrow, she whispered. She left, and I went to bed to relieve the tension. I couldn't afford a lawyer, but the paperwork stated that Henry would pay reasonable costs because he was filing. I found a lawyer who agreed to take the case, knowing that payment would come later. She informed me that the divorce would proceed regardless of whether I signed the papers. The judge would set the terms, which would most likely be similar to Henry's proposal. Henry offered me the house until Haley finished her senior year and a year after that, as well as 3 years of child support until June. Following that, the home would be sold. Or I could purchase it. I couldn't believe what was happening. Why would I jeopardize my marriage for something that had no long-term impact on Henry? I tried to meet Rick the following week, but he declined, saying it was only fun because I was married. He no longer finds it exciting that I am getting divorced. Henry was correct. Rick was an asshole. Holly is a mess. She misses her father terribly. She and I were always close, but she did a lot with Henry and still misses him in her life. Everything is not as it should be. It's been 2 weeks since I met Michelle's sister Lori, and not much has changed in the divorce. Becky continues to refuse to sign the papers and requests counseling, but it seems like a waste of time. Michelle and I meet whenever we can, usually just a few minutes after she puts Joni to bed. Lori helps us manage a few dates each week. Lori simply asks that we reciprocate the favor someday, and I agreed. Lori babysat Joni again on Saturday, while I took Michelle out to dinner and a concert downtown. While holding hands at dinner, we heard a scream from across the restaurant. "Get your damn hands off my husband now!" Becky yelled, storming toward us with several embarrassed friends in tow. "Yes, Becky, you saw me having dinner with my neighbor. Congratulations," I said, trying to remain calm. "Oh, don't tell me this is just dinner. I am confident you will have more later. Look at her. She is probably giving herself away." Becky spat, her voice filled with venom. Michelle stayed calm. "I honor wedding vows, even if they are not mine. We haven't done anything yet, but I'm looking forward to when we will." "Becky, thank you for leaving him," she said in a measured tone. Becky was escorted out as she shouted, "Stay away from him!" which made me wonder if her friends stayed with her. Michelle reassured me, "So, is this your wife?" "I'm very sorry, honey, it is not worth it. This will be an excellent story to tell. Lori and Jeffrey." The rest of the evening was less dramatic, and we really enjoyed the music. Michelle spent a lot of time sitting on my lap, her scent enticing me. On the way home, we held hands, and I made a decision at her apartment door. I said to Michelle, "Honey, I need to tell you something." She looked into my eyes and clasped her hands behind my neck. "What is it?" she asked softly. I never imagined it would be possible, particularly so soon, but I am absolutely in love with you. You are my final thought. At night and early in the morning. I understand that we will face challenges in the future, but I wanted you to know how I feel. My voice was filled with emotion. She kissed me. "And I love you, Henry. You are a wonderful person, and I can't believe you are mine. We have a lot to overcome, but it will not prevent us from being together. If things were different, we'd be in my bed right now. When the time comes, the wait will be worthwhile." We stood on her doorstep, hugging and kissing. We knew we couldn't go inside without succumbing to temptation. After one final kiss, we parted ways. My lawyer called this morning to tell me that Henry had escalated the situation. His lawyer forwarded photos of Rick and me in Hawaii, taken by a detective. Henry accepted the offer. While these photos cannot be used in the divorce, they could greatly complicate my life. They might make it difficult for me to find work if the divorce goes through as planned. Attacking Henry and Michelle in the restaurant was a mistake. I underestimated Henry, believing that he would not risk losing me and would agree to share. Rick was not worth my marriage, and I didn't expect it to end like this. It's been more than a month since the trip, and things are still getting worse. Dean broke up with Holly today following their date. She adores him and had hoped to marry him someday. She burst into tears as he dropped her off, running to her room. I comforted her for 15 minutes until she settled down. Dean abandoned me. "Mom." Holly sobbed and buried her face in her hands. "What happened?" I asked, my heart breaking for her. He insisted on having sex, but I continued to say no. He stated that he expected more from me given my mother's behavior. When I explained what you told me about women needing lovers as they get older, he asked if he could expect the same from me if we married. When I did not respond, he ended our relationship, claiming I would cheat on him, she explained, her voice trembling from emotion. It became clear that word of my affair had spread, most likely through Rick's public school disciplinary hearing. I underestimated the consequences, assuming Henry would stay quiet to avoid embarrassment. My mother had advised me that Dad eventually accepted her affair with Uncle Leo to avoid a public scandal. I assumed Henry would react similarly. Now I need to persuade Henry to return. Rick is no longer in the picture, and I promise I will never see him again. I can find a replacement discreetly by convincing Henry that I only want him once he feels comfortable. Tomorrow, I'll try to follow him home from work again. I spoke with Denise Duncan today, and Becky is still refusing to sign the divorce papers, insisting on another chance to talk and work things out. Denise suggested meeting her face-to-face to convince her that I will not tolerate her behavior. Otherwise, this could go on for months, with appeals and delays. But I was thinking about other things. It has been 5 weeks since I met Michelle, and I am madly in love with her. Tonight I'll finally meet Michelle's daughter, Joni. Michelle assured me that it would not be decisive, but I understand how important it is for Joni to like me. We started with a visit to Chuck E. Cheese. I drove with Michelle holding my hand and Joni smiling in the back seat. Joni grabbed my hand and led me into the children's play area at the restaurant. I lost a game of tag to her and eventually discovered her sitting on a chair during one of the games. "Our 8-year-old girl is truly strong," I asked as I caught my breath. She looked at me with large brown eyes. "Will you be my new father?" she inquired, her voice hopeful. "Kneel down." I took her small hands and said, "I'd like to be if you don't mind, but you don't have to decide right now. I think I would like you to be my new father. My friends' fathers don't play with them like you do, and Mother says you make her happy," she replied with a wide smile. I felt tears well up and requested a hug. Michelle paid close attention to us as we returned to the table. Joni was Michelle's mini-me, just as Holly was, Becky's. The remainder of the evening was wonderful. We played games to earn tickets, and Joni received a fancy Barbie doll. We then went for ice cream and returned to our apartment. Joni was tired, so we put her in bed and I read her a story. Michelle and I sat on the couch. She asked, "Are you ready to be a father to a little girl again?" At my age, I had doubts. But now that I've met her, I can't picture anything else, I responded sincerely. "How about one of our children?" she inquired, her eyes bright with hope. "Nothing would make me happier than to have a child with you, Michelle. Marrying you and becoming Johnny's father would be a dream come true," I replied, my voice filled with emotion. She smiled broadly and said she couldn't wait for my divorce any longer. We made love and I turned off my phone. Later, I discovered a missed call and voicemail from Denise. "Henry, this is Denise. Becky's lawyer stated that she has decided to sign the papers and will come to my office next week. You do not need to be present, but I will notify you when everything is ready." Denise's message stated in a businesslike tone with a hint of relief. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders as I looked at Michelle, realizing that our future was finally within reach. That night, I slept extremely well. My marriage was finally ending. This morning, I was prepared to fight until the end. But seeing Holly cry over Dean made me realize how much pain this was causing her. To avoid ruining my daughter's life, I decided to sign the papers. As a mature 41-year-old woman, I dealt with this decision by going to a club, drinking, and leaving with the first person who asked. I awoke in someone else's apartment, delivered Holly to her friend Leslie's, dressed quietly, and left. My car was still outside the club, so I called for a taxi. I went home, took a shower, and wanted to go to bed, so I did. I spent the whole weekend with Michelle and Joni. We visited the zoo on Saturday and ate dinner at Lori and Jeff's on Sunday. Joni spent the majority of the day with Alexis and Marcus as they grew up together. Jeff, who was a nice guy and knew his way around a grill, stood about 180 centimeters tall and in good shape. He played baseball in college and had just turned 40, while Lori was 38, and the sisters socialized and watched the children. I spent some time at the grill getting to know Jeff. He and Lori had been married for 15 years, and he was still deeply in love with her. She is still the reason I get up in the morning and complete my tasks. I want her to be proud of me and glad she married me, Jeff said, his voice full of determination. "I am sure you are doing everything correctly, Jeff. She has that confidence because she knows she achieved her goal," I replied, hoping to reassure him. "I have known Michelle for a long time. She is crazy about you, Henry. You have a good woman. She was totally devoted to Jay. That's why what he did hurt her so badly." Jeff continued in earnest. "I understand what your wife did. I bet my life Michelle would never take that step." I spoke with deep conviction. "I appreciate it, Jeff. I don't think Michelle would do something like that. Otherwise, I couldn't devote myself to her as fully as I do now." I continued, my voice steady and confident. I felt good about how both aspects of my life were progressing. Hopefully, I can get Becky's signature on the paperwork and submit it this week. Then, after the 90-day waiting period, I could bring Michelle to the altar, which I intended to do as soon as possible. My head was spinning. I believe it's Wednesday, but I've lost track. I've been drinking and going home with different men every night since last Friday, when I decided to sign the divorce papers. Fortunately, the last few guys were better than the first, so I could at least drown my sorrows. But today, if it's Wednesday, I need to sign the papers. I'm not sure what I'll do without Henry. I adore him, but I needed something more. I've never had feelings for Rick. I was supposed to spend my life with Henry, getting older together, spoiling our grandchildren, and traveling the world. Now I will be lonely and regretful for being such a fool. And if Henry ends up with the lovely brunette I saw him with at the restaurant, it will be unbearable. She was stunning and younger than me. I couldn't bear the thought of losing Henry to someone like her. I visited my lawyer's office, and we went to see Henry's lawyer. I hoped Henry would be present, but he was not. It hurt to realize he had signed the papers weeks before. He could not wait to be rid of me, and I cannot blame him. Perhaps someday I will apologize in person. For the time being, I'll have my lawyer review and confirm the paperwork before signing it. I ate dinner alone that evening because Holly was spending more time away, most likely distancing herself from me. Then I visited the club again. I found a table with 3 young men and offered them a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity if they paid for the hotel room. We left the bar quickly, and I was totally sober. This was my retribution for what I'd done. After the documents were signed and filed, the 90-day waiting period began, and 30 days have passed. My feelings for Michelle and Joni keep growing. Joni now calls me Daddy, which warms my heart every time. Lori and Michelle are already planning their wedding, hoping for lots of flowers and a good reception. In my opinion, they have complete freedom. I proposed the day after Becky signed the papers because I was eager to put a ring on Michelle's finger. The hardest part for me to accept after Becky's actions was Holly's involvement. Becky acted selfishly to achieve her goals, which I understood, but Holly received no direct benefit other than being a happier mother. It was difficult to reconcile Holly's apparent happiness with my humiliation. She saw her mother's actions as unavoidable and a rite of passage, becoming another victim of Becky's self-centered beliefs. However, her joy and disregard for my feelings hurt deeply and caused our estrangement. What drew me to Michelle was the opportunity to do things right with Joni. When Holly was young, I spent a lot of time working, leaving the majority of her upbringing to Becky. Holly and I participated in activities together, such as soccer and volleyball. But those were not the times to teach life lessons about marriage and relationships. I concentrated on teaching strength and perseverance, whereas Becky instilled other values, which backfired. I questioned whether anything could be fixed at all. Soon, my marriage will be officially ended. I've been counting down the days on my calendar without Henry. It feels like I don't have anything to live for. Holly, now 18, spends the majority of her time away from home and no longer requires me. Just a few months ago, I had everything. A husband who adored me, a lovely daughter, and lovers. But my arrogance caused everything to crumble. I'm not sure how I'll cope once the divorce is final. As long as Henry and I were legally married, there was hope. I haven't spoken to Henry since the day I flew to Hawaii, with the exception of my outburst at the restaurant, which was not really a conversation. Nobody has told me what he's been up to. Is he still with the stunning brunette from the restaurant? Are they serious? Or is he attempting to make her forget about me? I am concerned about his work and hope that my actions have not had an impact on his career. Everything was meant to be harmless. Until that day, Henry had no suspicions. Holly also supported me, but I was stupid for openly discussing it. And now I have a glass of wine in my hand. Sometimes it is placed on the nightstand. I still haven't found a guy for tonight, but I never go home alone when I'm out socializing. It sometimes gives me strength, but it's really just a desperate attempt to numb my grief and emotions for a few hours. The divorce would be finalized in a few days, and my wedding to Michelle was in 3 weeks, giving me time to obtain the final decree and a marriage license. This morning, Michelle and Lori took the kids shopping while I cleaned my apartment. Michelle's lease expired last month, and she moved to month even though I still had a few months left. We purchased a home nearby to keep Johnny in the same school district, one of the best in the state, and we plan to close on the apartment next week. Even though Michelle and I spent every night together, she insisted on waiting until marriage before officially moving in together. So we maintained our separate apartments. Money was not a concern, so I agreed. I received a message stating that they were returning and wanted to make sure I was home. It seemed odd, but I agreed and looked forward to their return. The response was a smiley face. Michelle had her own key, and I usually left the door unlocked while I waited for her. When she knocked, I was surprised. Perhaps she was playing a game, I thought. I opened the door and was surprised to see my daughter. "Hello, Daddy," Holly spoke quietly. I stared at my daughter silently until she fidgeted awkwardly. "Can I come inside, Dad?" she inquired, her voice trembling. I shook off the shock and allowed her in. She entered the living room. I shut the door and turned to face her, holding back tears. "What are you doing here, Holly? I thought I made it clear that I did not want to hear from you after what you said," I said, trying to keep my emotions under control. "I made a mistake, Father. I need to talk to you. If you don't want to see me afterward, I will not bother you again." "Please," she pleaded, tears well up in her eyes. "Okay, Holly, but how did you know where I live?" I inquired, puzzled. "Michelle is your girlfriend," she admitted. "How did this happen?" I inquired, still surprised. "She called me. She introduced herself, said you were getting married and we needed to talk. Is this true? I hope you aren't mad at her. She also mentioned that I would have a younger sister." Holly explained, her voice full of hope and fear. She was not the dismissive child I last spoke with. Intrigued, I invited her to relax and offered her a drink. We all had glasses of iced tea. "Okay, girl, what are you going to say?" I inquired, settling into my chair. "Dad, I sincerely apologize for how things turned out and what I said. Especially the last time I felt Mom deserved what she did. And you were selfish in hurting her." Holly began with a voice full of regret. "So what made you change your mind?" I asked, genuinely curious about a few things. "First, Dean and I broke up." She spoke while looking down. "Dean broke up with you. You two had a great time together. When did this occur?" I expressed my concern. "A few weeks after you left, I still thought you were an asshole. Mr. Harrington was fired, and the entire school soon learned why. Because my mother was unable to provide for me, he paid for everything and then pressured me into having sex. My parental instincts kicked in. I needed to speak with Dean's parents. I knew them well before Holly and Dean began dating, and they would not appreciate it." "And you?" I inquired, needing to know more. She looked at me like the sweet girl I had known before. "No, Daddy," she replied softly. The relief I felt was palpable. "What else has happened?" I prompted. "Well, I was defending Mom. Dean wondered if that meant I would cheat on him when we were older. I didn't know how to respond, so he assumed I would and abandoned me." She explained, her eyes welling with tears. "Wouldn't you?" I asked gently. "No, Dad, I wouldn't," she said firmly. I noticed she was calling me Dad again. I kept thinking about that day. Even then, I might have said it depended on the circumstances, but now I know for certain the answer is no. That is good. "Anything else?" I asked, feeling relieved. "Yes, Daddy, I spent a lot of time with Leslie's parents. I lost many friends, but they remained close. I explained that my mother had told me that a woman has no right to do anything for herself because she has spent her entire life caring for her family. They claimed she behaved badly as a wife and mother." Holly spoke, her voice softening. "You will not receive any objections from me," I replied, feeling relief and understanding begin to bridge the gap between us. They spoke with me about wedding vows and promises. Mr. P became ill when Leslie was a young child. He informed Mrs. P that he understood if she needed to find someone else because he couldn't be with her. She was furious, claiming that vows are about remaining faithful in good times and bad. She never considered doing that to him. They made it clear that Mom was only thinking about herself, Holly explained, her voice full of realization. "You recognize, Holly. Years ago, I had a stronger sex drive than your mother, but I didn't push it. We did it when she was prepared. Based on your mother's logic, I could find another woman whenever I wanted. Do you think she'll be okay with that?" I inquired, hoping to make my point clear. "No way. Daddy, she'd probably leave you." "I didn't think of it that way," Holly said, her eyes widening with understanding. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I believe Mom without thinking. I got caught up in her excitement and our secret, and I was wrong." She spoke with tears streaming down her cheeks. I gave her a napkin and hugged her tightly. "I forgave you, baby. I needed you to see for yourself that this was wrong. If I tried to tell you, it would only make you dislike me. You needed to figure out what was right and wrong. I'm glad you finally understood. Does this mean you'll be in my life again, Dad?" She inquired, her voice full of hope. Of course, honey. In fact, I have a wedding coming up, and I need you, I replied, smiling. Michelle asked me to be a bridesmaid. Leslie will also be there. I cannot wait. Holly spoke, her excitement returning. What a clever woman, I thought. She knew just what to do. But I sensed Holly was thinking about something else. What's the matter, honey? Do you want to say anything else? I inquired, sensing her hesitation. It's difficult, Father. I don't want to be selfish, but she trailed off and appeared uncertain. Simply say it, Holly. We will solve everything, I encouraged her. Dad, may I live with you and Michelle? She inquired, her voice small and concerned. I initially assumed it was about money because I only gave Becky enough for groceries. You know, after the divorce, Mom will have more money. I will pay more for alimony and child support. That's not the point, Father. Just... Holly hesitated, clearly troubled. I realized she wanted to be away from her mother. Holly, what happened? Why would you want to leave your mother and live with me? Dad, she is not herself. She always appears to be drunk. Half of the time, she does not return home until the next morning. When she gets home at night, a strange guy drops her off and Mrs. Malone has to drive her to her car, Holly explained. Her voice was filled with concern. Does she bring men into the house? I inquired, my protective instincts kicking in. I was furious, not because I cared what Becky was doing, but because Holly could be in danger. No matter how angry I am at Becky, I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to her. I do not know. I haven't seen them, but she might when I am not present. I frequently stay at Leslie's, Holly confessed, her voice small and worried. Okay, you can stay with us, but we need to discuss this with your mother, I replied firmly. I texted Michelle to come over immediately. Holly and I were on the sofa when Michelle arrived, and she rested her head on my shoulder. So the wedding is still on, and you're not upset with me for inviting Holly? You can't get rid of me so easily, Michelle joked, attempting to lighten the mood. She sat on Holly's other side, and Joni climbed onto my lap. Honey, we have a problem. I said this in a serious tone. I explained Holly's situation to Becky, who had clearly entered a self-destructive phase. Michelle was completely supportive. Do what you need to. It's important. Do you want me to join you? Michelle offered. I believe it is best if I go alone and leave Holly here, I responded, grateful for her support. I drove to my old home for the first time since that day. The yard was a little neglected, but otherwise it looked good. Becky's car was in the driveway, and no other vehicles were present. I hope this is a good sign. I rang the doorbell. The house looked the same, but Becky did not. She appeared disheveled, had lost weight, and wore an old robe. Henry. Oh my God, you are back. Please confirm that you are returning my call. I'll do anything, Becky begged, her voice desperate. No, Becky, but I would like to help you. Holly told me. What is going on? You cannot go on like this, I said, trying to remain calm. She stared at me, trying to process what I said, then flipped. Have you forgiven Holly? So what about me? Where is my forgiveness? She demanded, her eyes ablaze. I forgive you, Becky, I said softly. So why don't you want to take me back? I love you, Henry. I need you. Please, Henry, she begged, tears running down her cheeks. Becky, I said, raising my voice to get her attention. I despised yelling, but I needed her to quiet down. Becky, I am here to help you, I replied, my voice firm but gentle. I took Becky to the ER, where her blood alcohol level was extremely high. A psychiatrist admitted her to the hospital for 72 hours, citing a risk to her own safety. Michelle and I looked into rehab centers and chose one. Treatment was voluntary, and we hoped to persuade her to attend. That happened 7 years ago. As I prepared to walk Holly down the aisle, I reflected on the events. The journey was difficult, but we made it. Michelle and I are still happily married. Johnny, 15, idolizes her older sister and looks stunning as Holly's maid of honor. Amelia, 5, adores Johnny and will begin school soon. Tamara, 3, is full of energy and never sits still. Every night I carry her to her crib. Michelle, who is 8 months pregnant, looks more beautiful with each passing day. Yes, there's another girl. We're still debating names, but Aunt Lori may get her namesake. Sometimes I miss the Becky I married and our plans. I imagined we'd be married for 50 years, seeing generations grow. But life didn't work out that way. We've become friends and enjoy spending time with Becky and her husband, Martin, every month or two. It's not what I expected, but it's a satisfying life. I hope you enjoy that story. Here is another one. Turn left. I know the traffic light is within a meter. I've counted 82% of the time it's red. Today, it's red. Everything else is gray, even the faces around me. I look at the other passengers, as I frequently do. Again, I'm hoping to find proof that some of them are still alive. That person is doing something extraordinary, something that makes them a little more human. Their faces appear as dull and lifeless as everything else around them, and they simply stare ahead. We are all waiting for the damn stoplight. The rain drips on the windshield, trying to add to my misery. It's cold outside, and even though the car has warmed up, my fingers won't move without a dull ache. They're sticky, and have been for the majority of the winter. Otherwise, the situation remains unchanged from summer to any other day. My life is incredibly monotonous. The repetition seems so perfect, it almost sounds like a trance-inducing mantra. If I were more daring, I could probably spend my entire life with my eyes closed. That sounds appealing. Anything is preferable to looking at that shit all day. Everything seems to remain the same. Only the seasons vary around me. Neither I nor the world appear to change at all. My life certainly does not. My daily routine is definitely not. Nothing changed. It's a prison of constant repetition. Everything is simultaneously moving and static. Seasons change, so I know I'm not experiencing the same day over and over. But maybe I'm reliving the same year over and over. I need to see constant change around me. Proof that I am not living. Some dream that I am actually living. This concept is not new, but these events are uncommon and difficult to find. As I drive to work, my obsessive desire to notice even the most minute but permanent changes around me keeps me going. Here is one. The park benches have been painted. It's still green, but it appears fresh and clean. The problem is, did it get painted a year ago? I can't tell. My memory is so hazy these days. Still, I try to remember everything on my way to and from work, trying to identify the smallest changes. Maybe next year I'll remember the changes from today. There's a man in a black suit standing near the road. There's no briefcase, no movement, nothing. He's just there. He appears perfectly normal. Black hair is slicked back. Excellent appearance. He appears abnormal. If someone asked, I would be unable to describe him. Of course, nobody has ever asked me anything. To be honest, my wife and I no longer talk. I hardly ever see my coworkers. And even if I do, they do not appear to notice me. I stare all the time. I'm concerned that I can't see anything special about this guy. He stands too still. He appears almost artificial, like a Madame Tussauds figure. Wait. He turns his head. The movements are excessively slow and fluid, almost robot-like. Is this guy real? He continues to slowly turn his head until he is staring directly at me. Is this actually happening? I'm getting a strange feeling. He stares at me, and I can't take my gaze away. I am being held by dead eyes. It's like watching the devil, anticipating the devouring of your soul. That's Alex. He is on tomorrow's menu. Looks delicious. I can almost hear him thinking about horns and green lights. I look at the lever to put it into first gear, pull away and apologize to the man in the van behind me for honking, but otherwise remaining calm. Do not look at the man in the suit again. Don't. It is not good. He is bad news. I am looking. He's gone. How did he disappear so quickly? Was he even real? I hope not. He was evil. I hope he was real. Because imagining him would be far worse. It is easy at work. It always is. As long as they don't relocate me to the lonely annex. I'm still not sure why they did that. There was plenty of space inside the main building. Okay, they are all engineers. I am the only accountant, but I still feel like an outsider. I dive into the files as I do every day. The numbers appear to be the same as yesterday. At 10, Ralph stops by briefly to bring me the files, as he did yesterday. I get most of my information from the internet, but we occasionally have to exchange papers. Management apparently insists on someone bringing them to me, not the other way around. These days, I am almost forbidden from entering the main building. I try not to think about the insult anymore. It's still making me angry. Wait a minute. No, it does not. For some reason, it does not. Why not? It is supposed to. Rationally, I know it is wrong. They shouldn't be excluding me like this, but I just can't seem to get upset about it. Long before Ralph walks into my small office, I can hear him moving through the empty hallways of this empty building. I can hear every step in those droning corridors. Soccer. I'm going to talk with him about soccer. I really want to talk with him about anything? Anything? I know nothing about soccer. We do not even have a television. What other topics can I discuss? He's already entered my office. I lost a few seconds. The new files are on my desk. He is leaving. How could I have missed the only opportunity for brief human contact during my workday? Ralph is all I was able to say before he left the room, and he ignored it. Why? Ralph and I have always gotten along well, but this was a long time ago. How long ago? I have no idea. My past is a mess. New files. Concentrate on that, Alex. Do your job. Do not think about your life. What? 11 o'clock? I shake my head in confusion. The new files remain unopened. How did I spend the past hour? I have no idea. Is Ralph late? No, he always arrives at 10 o'clock. Steps in the hallway. Move away from me. What? Ralph? I do not get up to check. I'm afraid of what I might find. I drive up in front of the house and park as usual. Before I turn off the engine, I align the steering wheel perfectly and turn it straight. Tina is already at home, as usual. Her car is parked on the left side of the street. It may be slightly crooked at times. Sometimes it is perfectly straight, but not always. I always strive to do the right thing. These details help me stay sane. I am looking at our house. The light is out in the upstairs bedroom. Tina must have heard me approaching. The curtains in the living room move. What? Is anyone in the house? We do not have children or even pets. I quickly exit the car and enter the house. Tina? I'm here. She speaks as she walks down the stairs. She looks tense as she has lately. Why? We both work. We have plenty of money. Maybe if we ever spoke. If we really talked, I'd understand what's bothering her. Is anyone else in the house? She flinches slightly and looks at me with concern. No, Alex. She speaks slowly and clearly as if to a child. There is no one else here. This surprised me. Is she lying? But the curtain moved. Oh, Alex, she says simply, as if that clarifies things. For some reason, she seems to be on the verge of tears. Is she truly cheating on me? I walk slowly and numbly past her, making sure the bedroom is empty. And as usual, the bed is neatly made. I look around every corner. The house is empty. Tina observes me silently, her concerned expression unchanging. The meal is spent in silence, and I am perplexed and bewildered. 10 o'clock. Ralph. New files. I'm faster this time. Hey, Ralph, how are things going? I tried to sound pleasant. I even use a phrase that I have never understood. But that's what I think, buddy. Alex seems surprised that I am able to speak. Have you arrived with the new files? I just want to say something. Perhaps start a real conversation. But I don't know what to say. I don't know him at all. After all, that's correct. You know, I'm in a hurry. The boss is waiting. Oh, Geller himself. Geller. Are you serious? Geller has been away for 2 months. Frank Thomas is the new man. Did you really not know? Awkward. Did anyone let me know we had a new boss? Did I forget? I don't even know the name. Okay, sure. Just kidding. Yes, sure. He responds, clearly unconvinced. I have to go now. I will see you around. Sure. This time I am glad he is leaving. It was awkward. I check my files, look up again, and he is gone. I couldn't hear the distant footsteps in the long hallway. I glance up again, and there he is, the man in the black suit, or another one that resembles him. He looks so plain and ordinary, as if no normal person could look like that. He appears to have reduced all of humanity's history to numbers. They averaged them and formed a man out of the numbers, an algebraic, perfectly average Frankenstein monster. He's currently standing in my doorway. He doesn't lean against the door frame. He does not move. He just stands there looking at me. His posture and facial expression are neutral, as if he does not know. I've never seen anything this neutral. Even a signpost conveys more emotion. I suspect he is pure evil, but I am not afraid at all. I don't feel anything. I almost wish something happened to me, good or bad. I do not care. Kill me, kidnap me, transport me to an alien spaceship for examination. Any break from my monotonous daily routine would be greatly appreciated. Who? I begin to say something, but when I look up, he has already left. Not a single sound. How? I can always hear his footsteps echoing down the hall. Always. But I didn't hear Ralph leave, did I? Is Ralph and the man in the black suit playing a trick on me? Could this be the same person? I should have heard footsteps. I check my watch. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 hours have passed since Ralph left. What did I do in that time? Apparently, I have been working on the files. They're all finished. That is another hour that I completely missed yesterday. Today I had 3 hours. Is this good or bad? No, there are no more good or bad things in my life. Tina used to be good, but now she is just like everyone else. Gray, it is Wednesday. I'm heading home from work. Tina's parking spot is empty, exactly like every Wednesday. She's with a friend. What is her name? Lena? Lisa? Lena? Hell, she's been my wife's best friend for years. How long exactly? It's been a long time anyway, and I can't recall her name. What is wrong with me? I enter the house. Of course it is empty. Suddenly nothing seems certain. Do I live here? Is this my life? I turn off the light so that I don't see the same things every day. Nothing here appears to have anything to do with me. What am I doing here? I go into the bedroom to change. I turn on my bedside lamp. The bed has not been made. I am just fixated on that fact. But I don't feel anything because of it, and I find myself unable to look away. The bed has not been made. Should I be upset? Is Tina cheating on me, or am I simply being paranoid? We have not had sex in how long? Months. It seems like forever. Why haven't I noticed this? Perhaps because he's never been particularly good. Have I made the bed this morning? I remember doing it, but I'm not certain. It was not yesterday. I honestly have no idea. When I leave the room, I am left with only a vague suspicion. As I prepare a simple dinner, I think about my situation. My life is shit. Or maybe it's nothing. What can I do about this? I can't get away from this. Perhaps Tina is cheating on me. I'm not sure what I would care about if I knew for sure. I don't know either. I do not need to defend my territory. For a long time, we've lived together as brother and sister. Do I need to know for sure? Yes. For some reason, I must know. My life, while boring, is strangely confusing. I guess I'll have to deal with it as best I can, but I really want to know if my wife has an affair. She is the only friend I have left, and I need to know if she is. What can I do? I always leave after she does in the morning. When I leave, I close my bedroom door and lean a match against it. The outcome of the match will determine the fate of our marriage. Oh God, I seem to be getting stupider by the day. Next day, afternoon. Is it even the next day? Yes. My phone says Thursday. I give Tina a brief kiss on the cheek and realize she's in a better mood now. Since when? I don't remember, but she seemed concerned. I believe it has been for quite some time. At any rate, I see she's still dressed for work, so she may not have been in the bedroom yet. I immediately head upstairs to check the match. It is lying flat on the floor. She, or someone, has entered the bedroom. What does this mean? Did she just go upstairs, or did she spend the entire lunch break here with her lover? Damn, that doesn't solve anything. I slipped out of the office during my lunch break. Nobody would notice me. Everyone knows that I always do the same thing at the same time each day. So no one has bothered to check on my presence in a long time. Our garage is empty. No unpleasant surprises. As I check the house, I go directly to the bedroom door. There is no match. What? Did Tina find it and discard it? There is no other indication that she has been home since I left for work. Did I place it there this morning? I believe so, but I can't recall exactly how. My memories. Too unpredictable to play this game. I'll have to think about something else. I immediately return to work, and sure enough, the man in the suit is standing on the curb again. This time, he watches me approach and looks me directly in the eyes. His entire face is completely still. He appears to be wearing a mask, but today he has an evil smirk. It's scary. Goddamn bastard. The traffic lights are green, so I have to keep going. Even if they were red, I wouldn't dare talk to him. He just radiates anger. When I pass him, his cruel, smirking face follows me. Wait. His hand moves. I've never seen it do that before. It moves slowly, smoothly, like a well-tuned robot. He pauses and gives me a thumbs up. Scary guy. Despite Tina's possible cheating, this is the most interesting thing that has happened to me recently. It's becoming increasingly difficult to define days, weeks, and months. My entire history is one big, unstructured mass of chaos. Could you slice the tomatoes? Alex? Alex. When did my wife start calling me Alex? Has it always been Honey? When did this change? She purchased the same tiny tomatoes again. But I adore a huge kitchen knife. And nothing, not even absurdly small tomatoes, will stop me from using it while cutting. I noticed that the liquid on the cutting board is too dark to be tomato juice, and there is an excessive amount of it. Slowly, without really wanting it, My gaze shifts to my fingertips. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. They're all in place, but holy crap, I have a nasty gash across my whole hand. How did I manage to accomplish that? Why don't I feel any pain? Why isn't there a panic? I just stare at the blood oozing from the straight, somewhat interesting-looking wound. I turn around to see Tina. She looks me in the eyes before slowly shifting her gaze to the wound, and she is as strangely calm as I am. For some reason, she is holding a large knife herself. I wake up. I'm in bed. My arm. I examine it from every angle, and it appears to be in good condition. The wound was only a dream. Why aren't I relieved? Why am I not afraid to fall back into the unhurried, repetitive mass that is my life? Wait, maybe the smirking man in the suit was also a dream. Tina might be cheating on me. Hell, perhaps I'm still working in the main building with my colleagues. Tina is not in the room, and I'm not even sure what time it is. I check my phone. Saturday at 9 o'clock. I don't usually sleep so long. I also don't often have dreams about chopping off half my arm and seeing strange men in black suits. My mood improves significantly. All of that was just a dream. My life remains the same. Why shouldn't I be pleased about that? I get up and begin dressing. I open the sock drawer. I do not have to work. And it is winter. Alex's unwritten rules dictate that it's time for thick gray wool socks. I have 4 identical pairs. Of course, I alternate them so that they wear evenly. It's simply common sense. Tina's drawers are disorganized, but mine are organized. The socks in question are on the very right edge, neatly aligned with the black. What's going on? What's that? Someone has gone through my drawers. Tina understands that this is off-limits territory for her. She doesn't really appreciate my sense of order, and neither do I appreciate her constant chaos. So we stay out of each other's business. The gray wool socks and black business socks have been relocated. Why? There should be exactly 27 pairs of socks here, and 7 are in the washer. I check the other drawers, and everything is slightly displaced. There is no obvious clutter, but each item appears to have been moved methodically enough that I notice it. What the hell is going on here? Is someone deliberately confusing me? I'll have to ask Tina about it. She's in the living room reading. So have you been fiddling with my clothes? She looks at me and sighed. A very long time ago. Alex, I'm not sure what she wants to say, but she appears to be telling the truth. I wanted my life to change. But does change have to be so confusing? Driving to work? Damn, it was close. Another fraction of a second and I'd have hit the red. Toyota, apparently. This has to stop. Alex, you can't drive around town looking everywhere for imaginary men in black suits. It is beginning to have an impact on your life. They do not exist. Simply return to your boring, gray, monochromatic life. If you consider it a life, I am ready to go to work. Another coffee. These few minutes alone with myself after Tina leaves for work are the most valuable of the entire day. Nothing unusual has occurred in the past few days. There are no black suits and no new signs of cheating. I have just been living my life. Is this a good thing? Ralph has not brought me any new files in a while. I have no idea. Several days, at least. It appears that exchanging papers is no longer necessary. I'm not even sure if my coworkers are still alive. I only communicate with Tina. Who is she to me? My wife? Without an intimate relationship? I do not think so, friend. We've exchanged maybe a dozen words in the last, well, a while. I'm having trouble remembering dates lately. Can someone be a friend even if you don't talk? What is her current residence? I have no idea. And to be honest, I don't care. Why shouldn't I care? I remember not caring. I seem to recall thinking that everything in her life was extremely important, but not now. Many things that were once important appear to have lost their significance. My brain feels numb. Most of the time, I can imagine how someone would feel on drugs. Nothing really matters. Dream and reality simply blend into one another. What if I am drugged and lose control of reality? And I see men wearing suits. Who? Tina. Why? So she could cheat on me. Maybe these men in suits are drugging me, and Tina has done nothing wrong. But why? And who are they? Perhaps Tina is cheating on the man in the suit, and they both drugged me. Perhaps the mirror suspicion that Tina is cheating is enough to drive me insane. Worst of all, what if my life is just like that? Or perhaps I'm just slowly going insane on my own. That seems to be the simplest explanation. And Occam doesn't mind if it's the one I dislike the most. All I know is that it's time to leave for work. I put on my coat, and... What is this? Is this a camera? I'm not an expert, but it looks like a lens. Damn, I can't reach it. I'll need to get a ladder. Shit. I will check when I get home. I do not have time right now. Even if it's gone by then, I'll know where I am. Perhaps he has gone. I'm certain there was a camera there. Well, I believe so. Anyway, the camera is definitely gone now. There's no hole, bracket, or anything. What does this mean? Someone checked the videotape and noticed me staring at it. Perhaps if there were any cameras at all. My memory has been a little hazy lately. I spotted the guy in the black suit again. At least one of them does. Today he laughed and pointed at me. Even when he was laughing, his face was mask-like. Is he laughing because he knows I found the camera and have already put it away? Or did Tina install and remove the damn thing herself? Was he laughing because he had screwed my wife? I can barely ask her, can I? I can ask her, but what happens if she says yes? What should I do if she says no? What can I do? Go to the police? What could I tell them? That I am being followed by men in black suits. Even if they don't put me in a mental institution, standing on the side of the road in a suit isn't illegal, right? Maybe I should tell them that my wife or someone else may have installed and then removed a camera in my house. No, I need to think. Nowadays it appears to be much more difficult. What does it matter? The camera I ordered has finally arrived. Tina returned home and placed the unmarked box on the table without saying anything. She just smirked and continued reading the book. Would she know what was inside the box, and does it matter? Wednesday. Tina is not home. She is at a friend's house, whatever her name is. At least, I believe she is. The bed has been made this time. I am pretty sure I made it this morning. The footage depicts an empty bedroom with an unmade bed. What? The camera is motion activated. How come it shows me an unmade bed but not the motion that caused it? How could it mock me? By simply going on and on when there is no movement in the room. Wait for it. There it is. Shit. The guy in the black suit walks calmly through my bedroom, opening drawers and moving socks. Motherfucker. There is nothing I can do about it. The timestamp indicates it occurred 5 hours ago. Still, it bothers me more than the possibility that he had sex with Tina. I watch him switch between black and gray socks. Then he calmly makes the bed, turns around and looks directly at the camera. His mask-like face remains neutral for several seconds. Then we wink, and the tape ends. Damn it, he knew about my camera. The entire thing was a show for my benefit. And here I thought I had hidden everything so well. How did he even get into here? Tina must have allowed him in. Who else could he have messed up his bed for? Damn it. I checked the drawer and noticed the socks had been changed. What should I do now? Alex, could you come down here? Alex. Not cute. Exactly like in my dream. If Tina is in on this, she is aware that I discovered the tape. What do I do? Nothing. I need to think about it. But it's so difficult these days. It's best to ignore what happened for the time being. Going. Looking for guys in black suits as I drive down the road to work isn't the best idea. I do it anyway. Damn, I ran right into that curb. I hope the tire is fine. I struck the curb hard. I see a tire shop down the road. I should check it out. The tire shop is weird. Yes, it includes tools, an elevator, and tires. But the old brick building is cold and damp. It is creepy. It looks like an old building has been converted into a tire shop. I don't recall seeing a tire shop around here, but I don't visit these parts often. Sure, I will take a look. Wait here. The guy leaves to inspect my tire. He's dressed in dirty coveralls, as you'd expect, but he shares the same devilish grin as the guy in the suit. What should I do? Inquire whether he spends his days in the suit stalking me and sleeping with my wife? No. I pretend to look at the greasy Pirelli calendars on the wall. At least that is what a typical tire shop should have. My ears pop. I can feel him looking at me from behind me. He probably thinks I fucked your wife and you're going insane, my friend. He's correct. The tire is fine, no problems. He smirks that awful plastic grin again. I know it's the man in the suit. I just want to be out of here. What do I owe you? Nothing. I've got everything I need. Meaning, most likely it is my wife, and my life, and my sanity. What more could he want from me? Alex, get out of here before you go crazy. Or, more specifically, what is left of it? It's empty. The camera's memory card is entirely empty. I must have neglected to copy it yesterday. But what do I need the footage for, exactly? Cheating? Yes, that is exactly what I have no evidence of. Will I be able to bear the truth? In any case, I feel as if I'm walking a tightrope. I am confident that the confirmation of this betrayal will completely destroy me. Our love may not be as passionate, but I've always felt like we were symbiotes. Losing her would most likely be as devastating to me as removing my liver. I believe I'll just go to bed and think about it tomorrow. Perhaps then I'll have a clearer mind. I am back at work. How did I get here? I can't remember. That isn't my regular pencil. I lost this pencil 2 years ago. Never found it. I looked for it for nearly 2 weeks. I adore that pencil. Now it's in my hand as if nothing happened, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. Do not think about it. Just act normally. They are watching me. They're watching me and interfering in my life to drive me insane. So, where are the new files? Oh, right. Ralph has stopped coming. I get them from the internet. How long has it been going on? I think I forgot. I'll just stick with my routine. I will not give them the pleasure of watching me go insane. I can continue working, except for the Tina thing, which would kill me on the spot. Tina is on her way to work. I have approximately 30 minutes to review the records. They are obviously aware that there is a camera in the bedroom, so what does it mean if I do not find anything? What do I even want? To find the tapes. That's where I hope to find proof that Tina has been faithful. This is proof that she still loves me, that she would not abandon me for a faceless man in a black suit. Reluctantly, I insert the memory card into the reader. Only one file, a completely blank card, would suffice. That means it either didn't work or someone deleted everything. 10 files is sufficient. These are the fragments. A working motion detector should generate a single file. Perhaps it was left to me to find a best of compilation just for me. Do I actually want to see this? What good could come of it? It could destroy me. Of course, I open it regardless. She is already lying on the bed naked. Oh, God. How long has it been since I saw her like this? Available. Clearly aroused. It's torture to see her like this while she's unavailable to me. He walks up to the painting. He is still wearing his black suit. She approaches him and begins to stroke his pants, but he remains absurdly still. His expression is unchanging, like a mask. Oh, no. She gets into his pants. She smiles as she lies on her back, waiting for him. They both slowly turn to face the camera, Tina still smiling at him with her deadpan, mask-like grin. They both give me the thumbs up. Everything goes black. The voices. I can't see anything, but I can hear their conversation. They sound distant, but you understand them. But what they're saying makes no sense. I hear the words, but they do not make sense. So what are your thoughts? Will he ever awaken? I cannot say. There is definitely some brain activity, but not a lot. Neither voice seems familiar. Both are males. Do you think he is asleep? This is a woman's voice. Her voice carries more compassion than the others. Perhaps there is some concern. The voice sounds vaguely familiar. I can't tell who it is. However, it probably doesn't matter. I honestly don't know. A pause. Yes, I believe you probably do. He appears to be having a good time. Who knows? The other man speaks indifferently. Pause. I hope that he is. Now I feel a little sorry. I wasn't expecting the effect to be so strong. Confuse him. Yes, transform him into a complete vegetable. No, please make up your mind. You wanted him out of the way. Yes, indeed. Now she sounded annoyed. And the divorce is already well underway while he is here. I just don't know. Are you feeling guilty? I suppose. He's been dull and clingy, but I do not know. It is too much. You will get over it, I suppose. Please remember to take the antidote. Is she gone? Yes, we will reserve the bed next door for her. I have increased her dosage. We need to test the absolute limits. His brain appears to be slowly recovering alongside her. We need to push beyond those boundaries. It has never been easier to obtain guinea pigs for chemical weapons testing. Never before has someone offered their own husband. Yes, 2 for 1. I'm just lucky to have met her. She still believes we are researching mind-altering drugs for medical purposes. And I did her a favor by giving her some to confuse her husband. Are we going to put in as much effort for her? I mean, keep an eye on her and everything? No. When the substance is administered, the client's performance suffers. We'll rely solely on chemistry this time. Did she ever repay you for the favor? The gentleman will not say. Their laughter fades slowly, and they appear to be walking away.